pilot's hand trembled as he dialed the police, his eyes locked on a teenage boy sitting quietly near the gate. "He doesn't belong here," the pilot muttered, convinced of his suspicion. But within minutes, the pilot's world would shatter, because the boy's father was no ordinary man. He was the FAA Administrator, and his silent strength was about to teach everyone a lesson they would never forget. The airport buzzed with the usual rhythm of travel, rolling suitcases, hurried footsteps, and the faint scent of coffee drifting from nearby stands. Yet one pilot, dressed sharply in his uniform, stood frozen by the gate, his eyes fixed on a boy sitting quietly on a bench. The boy was young, perhaps 16, his skin dark, his backpack resting against his legs. He wasn't causing trouble. He wasn't speaking to anyone. He was simply waiting. But in the pilot's mind, suspicion had already been declared guilt. His chest tightened with unfounded certainty, and his hand moved quickly to his phone. Within moments, he whispered into the receiver, summoning the police. He didn't ask questions. He didn't seek truth. He assumed. The boy, whose name was Daniel, sat in silence. He had learned long ago that silence was often his safest shield. His father had told him, "Strength isn't always in words, son. Sometimes silence speaks louder than anything." Daniel believed him. His father, Mr. Carter, was a man few truly knew. To neighbors, he was a calm presence, a father who walked his son to school when he was younger, who showed up at community events without fanfare. But in truth, Mr. Carter carried a different weight. He was the administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, responsible for every pilot, every regulation, every life that trusted the skies. He carried scars of battles not on foreign soil, but in boardrooms and crises where decisions could mean life or death. Years earlier, after a near disaster in the skies, Mr. Carter had stood before grieving families and promised them something no one else had dared. "As long as I serve, safety will never be a privilege. It will be a right." That vow never left him. Now, as the police walked briskly toward his son, Daniel's hands tightened on his backpack straps. Strangers glanced over, some whispering, others looking away. No one spoke up. No one asked why a boy who sat quietly was being confronted. "Stand up," one officer said firmly. Daniel rose slowly, his eyes steady, his silence unbroken. His heart raced, but his father's words echoed inside him. Moments later, a tall figure approached with calm, deliberate steps. Mr. Carter had arrived. He carried no anger on his face, only a stillness that unsettled the air around him. The officers paused, sensing a shift they couldn't explain. The pilot, standing nearby, folded his arms smugly until Mr. Carter reached into his jacket, presenting a badge of authority that silenced the terminal. "I am the FAA Administrator," he said evenly, his voice calm yet unshakable. "And this young man you've surrounded is my son." The pilot's face drained of color. Whispers rippled through the crowd. The officers straightened, their posture shifting from suspicion to shame. Daniel remained silent, his eyes fixed on the ground, his dignity intact. His father's words now belonged to him. "Silence is not weakness. Silence is power." The pilot tried to speak, but the weight of his mistake hung heavier than any words could repair. Mr. Carter turned his gaze toward him and said one line that would echo in every corner of that terminal. "Respect should never depend on the uniform you wear, but on the humanity you share." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, travelers began to stand, not in chaos, not in outrage, but in quiet solidarity. Bags were set down, conversations ceased, and dozens of strangers rose to honor the boy and his father. Silence became their protest. The pilot lowered his head, his arrogance dismantled not by anger, but by dignity. As Daniel and his father walked away together, The boy whispered softly, the first words he had spoken that day. "You were right, Dad. Silence really does speak louder." And the terminal, once loud with judgment, now carried only the weight of that truth. Because respect, like the skies, should belong to everyone. Stories like this remind us that dignity often speaks loudest in silence. What are your thoughts on this moment of respect and justice? Share in the comments where you're watching from, and if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that honor silent heroes.